Welcome to Stage 6, Printing Ideas and Techniques. In this video I'll be taking you through two techniques. The first one is multicolored printing on a background and the second is repeat block printing. We're going to start with multiple colours, and you'll notice that I've cut out my lino cut shapes. I've not left them as a square, but I've actually cut around the shape, and that just makes it easier to place things in different spots on my piece of background fabric. The other thing I've done is I've mixed up different coloured trays with ink, and I use multiple rollers in multiple trays. And the reason for that is once you've impregnated your roller with quite a lot of ink, to get the ink out takes a lot of washing and there's a lot of wastage of the ink. So what I prefer to do is have multiple rollers, multiple trays of different colours, and then I store them in Ziploc bags so that they're ready to use on another occasion. And if you use your Ziploc bag and close it properly, you can keep rollers in that kind of environment for a couple of months. But you've just got to make sure that you actually close the bag properly. So we're going to lay out our fabric. And for the purpose of this demo, I'm using three quite clear colours because it'll show up on the background fabric. These are not the colours that I might normally use, but I just wanted to show you the effects. So I've got seaweed here. And again, I need to do my trial print. Make sure that my ink is good. And here it's a little bit trickier to print. So you've got to be really careful and hold your shape fast so it doesn't move. And that looks okay, so I'm happy to print that onto fabric. I take up a little bit more ink. And I'm going to place that as I think seaweed might look on the bottom of the seabed. And you see I'm being very careful how I hold . And there we've got a piece of seaweed. I think maybe I'll do another one and build up the scene a little bit. And when your linos are shaped in this way, you can change direction much more easily. So there I've got a bottom of seaweed. I think I might now place this sea cucumber-y, sea anemone thing, and I'm going to use a different colour for that. I think I might use red because in real life they can be really brightly coloured. They can be iridescent pink. And you can actually see I've put a bit much ink on there, so I'm going to do a trial print to get that extra ink off. I pressed my roller too hard. So you can prevent a blob happening before. It's actually printing quite nicely, so it wasn't as big a problem as I thought. But it's better to print on paper rather than your fabric. So now I'm being a little bit lighter in the pressure on my roller because I know there's quite a lot of ink on that roller. And I might move my fabric across a little bit, and I'm going to have my anemone over here. And I'm quite happy with the way that's come out. I know it's not quite as bright a red on the background, but I don't actually mind that. So the next one I'm going to do is my seahorse, and I'm going to do that in black. And I've got my black over here. Roll the black on. And again, I've done a blobby thing there. In any case, I need to do a trial print because that was a clean lino cut. And I always do a trial print before I print onto the fabric. It's just one of those reflex things. It's actually nice to use newsprint to do it. You can actually use that and put it into your workbook. You can actually go with watercolour and colour them in. That blob didn't print either, so that was pretty good. So now we'll roll the ink and we're going to print on the fabric. And even though you think there's a lot of ink on this, you do need to pick up fresh ink each time you roll. And with these shaped lino cuts, you really do need to make sure you catch all the edges because it's a little bit more difficult to see whether you have or not. So I've got my seahorse, and seahorses normally attach their tails to actual seaweed. So I'm actually going to have the tail just slightly overlapping the seaweed, so the seahorse is doing what it normally does. And I'm giving this a really good rub because the seahorse has got quite spiky edges, and I want to make sure they all print because that's what creates the graphic quality of the seahorse. And there I've got my seahorse. And you can keep on layering with different lino cuts on that. I tend not to use too many different aspects or lino cuts because then it becomes too cluttered. You need to leave space as well. So I want to show you how to print a repeat block, and I've made this repeat block previously. There is a brief discussion in the notes about how to make a repeat block, but repeat blocks are a real process in their own right, and it can get quite complicated. So this is a reasonably simple block, and I just wanted to demonstrate to you how to print those. So again, I'm using my black roller and I'm rolling my ink on. And again, you've got to make sure to catch all your edges. So I'll start printing on the left side over here, and I've got to make sure I leave myself space to place the next one. So, oh, I've got a failed print. I forgot to do my trial print. So what I would do, it hasn't gone through the back side. I'll demonstrate it on the back side, and you can see there that print didn't work very well at all. In fact, I probably didn't cover with enough ink, so this is why you do the trial print. And even I sometimes forget to do it. I try and do it every time, but I've forgotten that one. And it's really important to catch everything when you're rolling. I was a bit lucky that was a light print. It means I can still use my fabric. And let's hope for a better result this time. And it might also have been because I didn't press enough through the centre, so now I'm making doubly sure that I do press it properly. Because as I said previously, printing with lino is all about pressure and getting good pressure through the whole lino print. That's a much better effort. It's still a little bit light through the centre there, So I've just got to be really super careful how I roll, and I'm going to roll that first this time because I just want to make sure I catch everything. Now here comes the tricky bit. It's lining up this square exactly with the next square. And because I've got a corner line here, I know if I line up this corner, and I've got to get it right to that edge of where the cut-offs are. So you use little guides like that to try and place it as accurately as you can. And because it's a block, it won't be 100% accurate each time. It's because it's lino, and you've really got to be very careful in placing it. And again, I want to make sure I catch that center because it's a little bit light there. And that's all right because not every fish in the ocean is the same as the next fish. So my fabric then moved. You can see I haven't quite lined it up exactly, but it's not bad. And then when you stitch onto that, you can disappear some of that effect. Like you can correct the lines a little bit. I just need to doubly make sure I catch all the edges because there are funny little edges on repeat blocks because it repeats through to the next one. So this one is a bit trickier. I'm going to have to stand up for it so that I can line it up as best as I can. That's why sometimes the free-form one that I did previously, they're much easier to work with in creating a multi-scene thing because you've already got cut-out shapes and you do not have to line up the blocks as accurately as this. But again, if you want to have repeating fabric, this is what you need to do. And you can see because there's all those little edges, that's why they're tricky to make and tricky to print. You just need to make sure that I'm catching all the edges. And again, I'll stand. I've slightly got that out of sync. But as I said, when you do the stitching embellishment, you can disappear some of that little errors in registration, really. And because I'm printing on fabric, I can stitch and fix up those little errors. So there you go, you've got a whole piece of fabric which has been repeat printed. Thank you for joining me for this lino print class. I hope I've given you the steps to create a successful print on fabric, and I want to wish you happy printing.